much stuff floating around. I don't know, people trying to say they wasn't together.
Basically was trying to get into a threesome. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another exciting episode of K and Manny. I'm the one they call Manny. She's a lady of all K's. And today's episode is sponsored by...
And today's episode is sponsored by Lady K Enterprises, where we are a financial service firm where we can help you everywhere, to helping you getting your business established, to helping you grow a team, to helping you want to do multiple things on the financial end on your business. So we would like to welcome everyone this Saturday morning at 11 a.m. with Kay and Manny. And today we are going to be talking about a very touchy subject, but it's very needed. And we're going to be talking about comparing the monogamous versus the poly lifestyles. I know everybody's like, oh Lord, you've probably been hearing that word poly. Manny and I, we just clearly want to give educations for those who are not aware, because it appears to be one way, but I feel like once education is provided, it's going to change your perspective on how you receive this information. So, of course, Manny, I want to start off on the monogamous end because this is how we was all raised. And to be honest, to be technical, here they consider us on the Western hemisphere of the world. They said, we're the only country that kind of like don't recognize this versus a lot of those countries overseas. This is polygamy is more out there than monogamy. So right. We're just going to narrow in on the states and what we was taught, and and how we do things. So you ready, Manny?
Yeah, I'm ready to kind of get a better understanding of what this is, because let's be honest, we've all seen people practice this type of lifestyle, this type of dating lifestyle, on top of, you see it a lot on social media. I think that one thing is that we're trying to dig a little bit deeper on what this lifestyle is. Never mind the fact of what you see on social media, because I feel like that just barely scratches the surface and just kind of glamorizes it a little bit. Now, let's be honest. We all know social media glamorizes a lot of things, but don't tell the true story. So what we're here to do is trying to give you some insight, dig a little bit deeper, and give it a little bit more research of what this lifestyle is. Now, let me make something extremely clear before we continue on with the show. We, Kay and Manny, are not influencing anyone, at least knowingly, to be in this lifestyle. This is something that you have to figure out if this is right for you. Because I'm going to be honest with you, it's not right for me, but maybe it could be right for you. That's why we're here, to kind of like educate.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to say.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Manny. So let's start on the monogamy end. Of course, that is a taught behavior, and there's nothing wrong with it. We just singled out that one person is going to be with another person, and of course when this all started, it was the opposite sex. Let's just make that clear. No shade to anybody, but I'm just saying you this is how it all started. It's saying that you and that other person have made a commitment to one another, and then sometimes when those relationship grows, you go ahead and you decide to raise your family. So of course here, like I said, on this Western hemisphere, that was the dynamic that was presented to us, to do things this way because that's how they put it forward. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I also want to say some underlying things. While these two people made a commitment to one another, there's probably that one person who's not transparent on their feelings. And then also too, we also know that people weren't able to be who they were because of the different time zones. So if we go back into like the slavery days, and then we want to go back to now to today, two different eras. So we have to keep that in mind, why certain things were just laid under. It was hush hush, and it was more discretion. And to be honest, I'm gonna be honest with it. I kind of there's a difference between being transparent and discreet. A lot of people are not transparent, but they're really discreet about their extra curriculum that they're doing. So, later on, when you hear that Papa was a Rolling Stone and had all these other kids outside of your mom, that created a lot of war and a lot of families and a lot of,
Animosity.
right, dysfunction, and that's just quote unquote normal. Now, should we accept something like that? Now, if you are a person and you're saying to yourself, for a fact that you just want to be with one person and one person only, and you expect them to give that to you as well, as long as you are keeping the communication doors open, I see nothing wrong with that. Now, when the person starts going left, start being not transparent and start doing other things, it's like, what is the reason for the relationship? You know what I mean? Manny, let's focus on that for one moment.
Sure.
What is the reason that a person will get into a relationship with someone knowing they just want one person and the person is unable to give that to them? Why do people stay in that place that they can't be open and transparent with their partners?
Because if this, I'll give you a take. I think it's because they either experienced something or they've done something and they don't think the next person is cool with it, even though that's something that they're willing to be. But I always tell people, if you just lay stuff out in the open, it doesn't matter how that person reacts. It's all about, okay, you got it out in the open. This is not what you want. Let me just move on. But I think a lot of people are just scared of the reaction of what's going to happen, because a lot of times people are very timid on what they want. Never mind what they feel. They just very timid and they're very, how can I say, well, I don't want to say scary, but just not unsure. That's the word I want to use. They're very unsure of how the other person is going to react. Whether they're going to react badly, or they're going to react calmly, or they're going to just be completely down for it altogether.
Right. And you know what, Manny? I'm happy you said that, because it was based on how a person is going to react. And when you said that, this is what popped into my mind. Again, remember when we first opened up the show, we were talking about how these things are taught. So I think sometimes it is taught to a man to lie to this is the old thinking, to lie to the woman, right? You lie to her because you love her. Have you ever heard that before? You lie to the one that you love. So I think that has been presented to our young men, right? And then as our young men get older, they might get some aha moments and, you know what? That's not right. That don't sound right. Or they might continue in this run with it. Everybody is different. So I think honestly, that's where it underlies of you knowing the truth. And then when you finally come into truth, now you have to make a decision. Do I still want to continue with the lie that was taught to me, or do I want to do things differently? So my next question to you is, why do you think some men have a hard time wanting to do this change?
Again, it's unsure of the reaction. But for me, I mean, I'll tell somebody real quick, hey, this is what's going on. If you with it, you with it. If you're not, you're not. But I always tell people that, this is who I am. Right. Because if they're not honest with themselves, who they can be honest to?
Absolutely.
Let's be honest. People has a tendency to lie to themselves simply because of they want to protect their own. Now, I'm all about protecting your own feelings and protecting your peace. But then again, you're sacrificing who you are in order to do that.
Right. Right.
So it's just one of those things where, you have to weigh out the pros and cons. Okay, I'm being myself, but then I may face ridicule. I'm keeping this a secret, but people may not come at me as hard as if I would tell it. So it's just a pros and cons things for me, at least.
Right. And you said something profound too. You said, that people get to the place where, they're not honest with themselves because they're still in denial. And I think,
Yeah.
I think denial, I think that's a process. And I think a lot of it stems from the fears of others, how others would judge us. And this is why sometimes we have a hard time accepting, the poly. So I'm gonna move more now into poly, right? So before
Mm-hmm.
anybody get offensive, I just have to tell you this, and because it's the truth. So I gotta present this to you. Say if you and Manny, say like if you're in a relationship with someone, right? And she's telling you, hey man, I just want to be with you and just only you. And you're like, okay, cool. Not knowing that on her outside attention, she's dealing with other men because this is what she just like at that time. She likes you, she likes him. And she said, hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and play the film. I'm gonna tell them that I want to be with them one individually, but what I really want is just to have them all to myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because she's not transparent. I just chose that scenario just to give you an idea. That is indirect poly right there. Indirect poly is when you are not being honest with the other people, but there's a lot of transactions going
We
on.
call that something else, but go ahead.
There's a lot of transactions. Oh, and let me make this clear too, because here is where the biggest indicator lies. See, people just base, oh, you just having sex with multiple peoples. It has nothing to do with sex, because there are people that's in the monogamous world that love to swing and like do other stuff. But I ain't gonna go to that as another show topic. But what I'm saying is if you can come to the person, and this is the beautiful thing about polygamy, when you come to a person and you tell them, hey, this is my lifestyle, this is who I am, do you accept? When you put that in somebody's hand, you have no idea. You give them the power to make a decision. And that is what poly is all about. You standing in your truth, you speaking it, and you allowing the other person to make a decision if they want to jump on the same bandwagon with you. You are allowing that person to be free to make that decision. So a lot of people look at it, oh, but if you let loose and you don't grab control of someone, they can do whatever. But that's the whole point. You have to see what people want to do. Stop trying to force them to do what you want them to do. They have to do it naturally, because guess what? Anything that's not forced, that just flows, that's of God. Okay, it's of God. And because I am going to bring God into this, and I don't want nobody to bash me, because I do believe in God, and I am a Christian. Talking about polygamy. Polygamy is documented all throughout the Bibles. A lot of the prophets and elders and all those people, they had multiple wives. But let me zoom in real quick. Why? Because let me show you why the dynamics was powerful back then. So of course, it was all about producing children. And when you're producing children, you are multiplying, because you are flooding the earth. You're doing God's work. He said, be fruitful and be multiplied. And you're going to do the work out there. So when these prophets and these elders, or all these people in the Bible, when they had the concubines, when they had the more than one wives, it was focused on for reproduction, and it was also focused on for the community and for them to continue. Right. That's it. You can do the rest of history yourself. That's the only part that I just want to underlay, that please don't get it twisted that this is just something new and it came out of nowhere. No, this has been around for many, many years, and it has been practicing. So going back to the lifestyle, there are different dynamics in the poly area. Okay, so you have to figure out how do you want to choose that for yourself. However, I want to put this in perspective to you as well too. Having a 3-income household is better than a 1-income household. How does that look? Just recently there was a story about a man and his two wives. His man and his two wives, they was able to purchase property, and then on the property they was able to do other things. They was able to build another house, all because they have a plan on how they want to increase their wealth. And we already know right now today's favorite word is I want to break generational curses. I want to create generational wealth. Well, they decided on a plan and it works for their family and it works for that dynamic. So why go ahead and bash something that you don't understand the concept to? It's all about economics and how are we growing together. It has nothing to do with sex. Go ahead, Manny.
Well, and to kind of touch bases on what you just said, I mean, it's like I said in the beginning of the show, we're researching this lifestyle because when you put it on social media, again, it only scratches the surface and it glamorizes something. You like when you and I kind of talked off there about this lifestyle, you already knew that when I looked at something, it's like when you look at something, people are going to do one or two things. They're either going to research it or they're going to actually three things. They're going to research it, they're going to be intrigued by it, or they're going to reject it.
Right.
And the only problem is a lot of people reject it simply because of either religious reasons. And on top of that, this is something that's most people will think, oh, this is just a stage, this is just a fad, this is just something that these new kids are doing that's, pretty much thumbing the nose at the older generations or thumbing the nose at the elders. Well, that could be true in some people's cases.
Right.
However, if you do more research on it, just kind of like what you did, homeboy had two wives and basically build a community.
Right.
So now we understand that this is something more than just having sex with two different women, sometimes at the same time, but never mind that. Just the understatement of, okay, we're building a community, we're building something here. And you even touched on the basis where it was in the Bible. Solomon had, 300 wives?
Hello.
And 700 concubines. Now, I'm going to be 100% with you. I have a hard time with one. Never mind 1,000. I have a hard time with one. So 1,000 different personalities and you got to handle them all? Nah.
Right.
Not me. Not going to do it. No.
You're right about that. But in most cases, right? I'm going to say this in most cases. And again, I'm not justifying nobody's action, but in most cases, right, in today's world, here where we live at in the States, right, you see a lot of men, right? They'll have the wife and then they'll have, the lady on the side, right? And
we call those things, we call those people something else.
Listen, let me tell you something. I don't bash, because here's another thing too.
I'm not gonna bash. I'm just saying a lot of people call, like when you see a guy with more than one woman with them, we call them something else. We're not gonna say the name here. Right. Y'all can pretty much figure it out.
Right. And hold on, there is a difference between a man who has matured and again, that brings the transparency on what he wants. And then there's a difference between men who just have no regards for everybody's feelings and does what he wants. You know what I'm saying? That's different. So, but let me just stay focused and stay clear here, right? So when we're going back to a lot of situations that there are men and there are women that's on the side, everybody plays a position, everybody know where they stand at, but it seems like in this day and age, the lady on the side, sometimes she be wanting more. And it's like, well, you knew the dynamics you were coming into this, right? So I'm going somewhere like this. And a poly situation that I saw, it was a man and a woman that was married, right? So their thing was, even though they are married, and it's how, again, the dynamics are so different, you have to lay out how you want it, what you want it to look like. The man and woman is married, but the wife, she has boyfriends, right? But guess what? At the end of the day, her husband is her main one. She's coming back to her husband. You as the boyfriend, you accepted that role in the position and you stayed there. If we don't have an open conversation that the dynamics has changed, Nothing has changed. And if your feelings has changed or you feel like you want more, then that's when you got to be open and vocal and put it out there. Hey, do I stay in this or do I move someplace else? You know what I'm trying to say? And the reason why I gave that dynamic, that's a lot of people's situations right there. There's a lot of wives who knows what their husband is doing, or when in the beginning, before they got married, they had a discussion. Hey, are we going to do an open marriage? And if someone do an open marriage, that is none of your business. That's their business. You see what I'm saying? So
Right. And a lot of times people want to chime in on the fact, but now chime in on the fact that, oh, they have an open marriage. Okay, if they have an open marriage, they have an open marriage. I'm not that type of person who is going to look at somebody and just think that's weird. No, I'm not going to do all that. What you do in your relationship is what you do in your relationship. Now, if
right,
you come to me asking for advice, I will give you my advice free of charge, but I'm not going to just just give you my advice just unwarranted. No, I'm not going to do all that.
right. You say you ain't going to charge. I'm going to charge because listen, people be coming to me like I'm some licensed therapist. I'm like, listen.
No, they don't come to me like that. They ask me, and I'm gonna give them my unadulterated, unbiased opinion. Now, whether you want to use it, that's up to you.
Right. That's a
Okay.
whole different story. But yes, that was great, Manny. Like you said, what you choose to do with it is up to you. So I just want to know, like, can we just get to this place of stop labeling people and stop calling them all types of names because you don't understand the dynamics of it. And like I said too, let me just go back to poly. Poly is when you are allowing yourself to be selfless. You are saying, you know what? I'm going to give you the power to make a decision. That I keep telling you guys, that is so powerful out there. When you allow someone to make a decision because you was transparent in your moment, that means everything. When you say, hey, I'm going to allow you to love others, but it does not mean that you may not have feelings because you might be new to it and you're like, well, I'm not used to this. So again, when you decide to do something new, you're not going to be new to stuff, but then you're also learning something different. Like, hey, I'm actually giving this person the freedom. That is scary for a lot of people. So if we really want to get technical, these relationships, it boils down. Are you trying to make someone stay with you? Or do you want them willingly to be with you? Because I feel like a lot of times, women, we give men ultimatums. What's the ultimatum for? If the person keeps doing what they're doing, they are literally showing you what they want to do. And now you're mad because they're showing you, you don't even have to give them ultimatum. You can just cut it off for yourself because that's your peace. You are protecting your peace. And there's nothing wrong knowing what you want. And here's another thing too, right? So you may know a little bit about poly and you say, hey, right now it's not for me and that's okay. But maybe as you go on through life, you might change. You say, hey, I want to give it a try and see if that's really for me. Because now what you're doing is you're paying attention to your behaviors, you're paying attention to your body. You're like, wait a minute, that's not an alignment of what I'm saying I want. So is this truly what I want? So there's nothing wrong with you taking the time to explore yourself, to ask yourself realistic questions, and to also put yourself in the mind frame. Do I want to learn something new? Again, you don't have to cross over. You can just say, hey, let me just study this. Let me just get some insight. Let me just see what they're doing. And maybe later you might have a different aspect. And when you do, it's nobody's business to put any type of judgment on you, because the world that we live in today, listen, honey, we all should be repenting and thanking Jesus that we are still around. Hello?
Yeah.
I sometimes this is annoying, but sometimes a lot of us choose to put focus on one sin, right? And just blast it and elaborate it when we're all sinners. And I'm not trying to say, hey, that's perfect and but it's normal that we make sometimes unconscious mistakes. Some mistakes we are aware about, but that's what life is all about. Life is a journey.
Right.
There's no one perfect answer. But again, it just goes back to you being honest and truthful on what you want. So I am done laying out the facts. Manny, is there anything else you would like to add on?
There's one thing I want to add on, and I see this a lot. And I'm talking to the guys here. Listen, I understand that this could be a beneficial type of relationship for you, but instead of looking at it from a surface level, thinking you get 2 women to work with or 3 women to work with or what have you, research this lifestyle, because a lot of times people get into something and they just don't know the ramifications or the pros and cons of it. So do your research and actually make a conscious decision. Don't make an emotional decision when you want to get into something like this, because a lot of times we see something, we think it's good for us because we don't think with this head, but we think about what could benefit us. And I'm saying take yourself out the equation and think about what this lifestyle really is, because a lot of times we jump into something we're ready to jump out of. So like I said, do your research.
Right. One more thing too. So as I said in the beginning, it's all about knowing your need. What do you need from these people that you want them to come into your life to, just to give some type of fulfillment? Because we already know when people come into our life and whatever they give us is an addition, because we have to be at peace in a great place with ourselves. So with that being said, everyone, we want to thank you for tuning in this Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Come back next week. Can't wait to share what we have going on. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about it. And you continue to follow us here on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all those wonderful, great platforms that we are on. Everyone, see you next time.
Take care, y'all.
Lady K.